Hey folks, it's Ben again. We're back with the second installment of how to increase your website's conversion. And again, we're going to look at some of the mechanics today and some of the specifics of how you're going to go about doing this. Before we do, let me tell you one last story. We've done some work with a client called the Tennis Shop. Their website conversion rate started out at about 1%, and through a series of testing and working on templates and various bits and pieces that you'll see in our checklist, we've seen them go up to just shy of an average of 6% conversion rate across their site, which is fantastic. The interesting thing is, not only have they seen a big increase in sales and back-end sales, and it's moved from sort of a part-time to very much a full-time business with multiple staff, the other thing that's happened is they've now become the go-to source or the go-to website for suppliers of tennis equipment, you know, Prince and Wilson and those sort of tennis brands, to get rid of their end-of-year stock. When they've got a model that's being superseded, they'll take it to this website and give them incredible discounts that are just, you know, anyone who's in the tennis space knows that they're buying, you know, a brand new high-quality racket at a fraction of the normal price. And because of that, they've had this steamrolling effect where they've now got an even bigger increase in sales conversion rate and simply just in sales volume through their websites. But all of that happened because they took the time to increase their conversion rate. They were known as the place that got stuff sold. And so they've now moved from simply being a part-time side interest of one particular gentleman to now being the second largest online retailer of tennis gear in Australia. And they're now competing with some of the publicly listed companies and are getting the attention of those companies based off really quite a basic website that we've just tweaked the conversion rate of consistently over a few years. And folks, that's what I think can happen with you if you'll work on your conversion rate. The other thing that I just point out is that if you're doing any consulting of any sort, this is the part that can make you look really good. In many cases, you know, you'll do a whole heap of technical work for people, but the little bit you do on conversion is the piece that they remember and that they value the most. I think the reason that people don't work on this, and I'd be interested to see whether you agree in say the comments of the blog post, is that rejection is silent online. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Part of my role is to sell website development services, and I do that for another company of ours called Alliance Software. And I make sales presentations, and I don't like it when people say no. I don't think I'm an insecure person, but nobody likes the feeling of rejection when you put a lot of work into a sales pitch. And so what naturally happens is when I make a sales pitch and I get rejected when somebody says no, I sit at night, and when I'm going to sleep or when I'm in the shower the next day, I'll think about that and I'll think what went wrong. And you naturally change your sales presentation because we don't like the feeling of having people saying no. And so now I have quite a refined sales pitch now for different segments and different customer types that I'm selling to. But online, you can have a presentation that is being rejected all day, every day. You can have a sales presentation that, you know, people are coming to and saying, no, don't like your offering, you're overpriced, or in fact you're underpriced. You couldn't be any good if you're that cheap, or I'm a bit confused. What is it again? I don't understand. I think confusion is the biggest killer of sales in many cases. Or this is all too hard. This ordering process is hard, and your site, it simply shows up to you as low sales volume and often a high bounce rate. We see, you know, most websites sit at a 50% bounce rate, meaning 50% of people who come to them leave immediately without engaging with you. And you know, if you were physically standing there in place of your website, making that sales presentation, reading out that sales copy, you would evolve within the first 10 minutes. You would change, you would alter your sales presentation. And yet people think that a website is somehow different, and they'll put a website up and they'll leave it for years, not knowing that it completely sucks from a sales perspective. It can't sell to save itself, and it's consistently being rejected by potentially perfect customers because rejection is silent online. It's like the picture here is of the Aliens movie where people, the tagline was, "In space, nobody can hear you scream." Well, in internet marketing and on web pages, you know, rejection is silent. You don't feel the pain of that rejection. So folks, I want you to think about your bounce rates and realize that, you know, that you're being rejected consistently, and if you'll alter your sales presentation, your rejection rates will go down and your sales rates will increase. So let's look at some of the mechanics, and I think that'll make for a good round out of this video. Firstly, we've got this notion of A/B split testing, which is what we do when we're testing radically different approaches to a sales message. And essentially here, you create page A, which might be your original sales page, and you create page B and maybe even page C, that are completely, often radically different sales representations of the message that you're bringing in. And the software, and we use a free tool that I'll show you in a moment, it will randomly rotate people through the different variations, and it will tell you which performs the best. And it's smart enough so if a person visited page B the first time they got to your website, it'll generally show them page B the second time they came. The alternative is what we call multivariate testing. Now this is useful where you've got a page that you're fundamentally happy with, but you're wanting to swap out some of the key elements. And so you might have, for example, an original headline, and you come up with 3 different headlines. And headlines are typically easy to come up with. They're fast, and you can come up with lots of them. By comparison, you might have a video which takes a bit more work to put together, and so you might only have 2 alternate videos. And you could also, this example could extend. You could have testimonials and other bits and pieces. And the software will essentially rotate through each of the headlines and each of the videos and craft a presentation and show it to a user. Now the important thing is it may come back and say, look, alternate headline number 2 is the best performing headline and alternate video number 1 is the best video. And it's important that any of these combinations make sense when put together, because they'll be randomly combined to see which combination actually sells the best. Now the tool that we use for a lot of our work is Google's Website Optimizer. It's free. It's here at google.com/website optimizer, and you can go and you can log in typically using your standard Gmail login account details. So how does Google Website Optimizer work? I'm going to explain this at a high level, and on the checklist page I'll put in some links to some of the good specific training videos that Google have provided, and it's not hard to work with at all from a technical perspective. I would make a note, a lot of you are working with developers, and it's been our experience that developers will mentally assume this is very difficult, and what we've actually said to clients is pay your developer to do nothing for 1 hour but read the documentation on Google Website Optimizer, and in every case they've come back and said, oh, it's not that hard. And so it is a mental hurdle, but it's actually purely mental. It's not that difficult to work with. So this is the way that it works. You have a web page here in green in the middle where you've got some JavaScript, and you've got that you take from Google and you put in, and you've got an original headline. And that JavaScript will hook up to your Google account here in pink, and it will take the various headlines that you store inside your Google account, and it will rotate them through your page, and it will compare them with the performance of the original. And so the comparison is done at the goal page. So a person comes to the landing page, if they respond as we would want them to, they will get to the goal page, and then by virtue of visiting the goal page, the Google Analytics system, or the Google Website Optimizer system, is informed, and the Google account records the statistics. And it comes back and will tell you which variation of your headline, whether it be the original, or in this case the 3 alternates, has the best sales performance rate. So that's how Google Website Optimizer works. Now one other notion that I think is really important is the idea of testing up the funnel. This funnel is representative of many people's marketing approach, and it's perfectly valid. We have 1,000 people coming to our webpage, and of those, 10% or 100 opt for our free offer, our soft or our free offer. And then we get 5% of those buying our low-cost offering, and then of those 20% buying our high-cost offering. Now the question to ask yourself is, we could actually test 3 different points in our sales presentation. In fact, we could also probably test the marketing that brought them to the page as well. But in this example, we could test our opt-in page, our cheap product sales page, or our big product sales page. And the advice that we give people is start with your opt-in page, test up the funnel. And the reasons are hopefully should be obvious. Firstly, you've got more traffic here. Now a test requires a certain volume of traffic to be valid, to be useful. And you get the more traffic that you've got, the quicker you'll get test results. So the quicker you'll see benefits. Secondly, if we got, in this case, if we got a higher opt-in rate, it would build a larger database, not only for this initial sales process, but for other things that we wanted to do. And thirdly, the increase in conversion here, if we got moved from, say, a 10% to a 12% conversion rate, we would then have 120 free downloads, and that would flow through to increase sales at our small and our large product level. So you typically test up the product funnel when you've got limited time and resources, which generally we do. And so that's the point to start. If you've got unlimited time, then you should test every element of your marketing, and that's good to do. But this is the way that we typically run our testing and set our preferences. So in the next video, I'm going to go into 7 specific techniques that you can use to increase your conversion. Hopefully now I've convinced you that it's beneficial. I've walked you through some of the mechanics, that the concepts are really quite simple, and really what you've got to do is just sit down and craft up some alternate sales presentations, and we're going to go through that in these techniques. And then we're going to finish off by looking at our checklist. And guys, I think there's a whole lot of benefit you can get from this, so I would encourage you to join us for our next video and look through how you can increase your website's conversion rate, because I'm convinced. I mean, this stuff in simple terms pays my mortgage. This is the reason that I have I've made a lot of money out of this personally and working with clients, and so I want you to get that benefit. Thanks, guys.